Hello, everybody, and welcome back to nmipodcast, a podcast exploring the worlds of movies, video games, and TV shows. I'm your host, Nate, and today I'm joined by guests Jordan, Chaz, and Fergus. You know what? Let's just call them the co-hosts. I think it's the regular co-host now, the lovely people joining me today. How have you guys been this week?
Hey man, yeah, I've been alright. Been off work, so I've used it to catch up with a few things that I missed when it first came out. Got through WandaVision. That was pretty interesting. Don't know if we'll talk about that at some other point, but that was pretty good. Yeah, just been chilling really.
Nice, that's pretty awesome, man. WandaVision is pretty great. I had tiny issues with it, but I think cinematography-wise, I think it's the best they've done so far, in my opinion. Jordan, how about yourself, man?
I'm doing really good, man. Just been getting on with stuff as usual. But I'm happy to say that today marks the first anniversary of Valheim's launch. So I'm probably going to get stuck into that later on today.
How many hours tonight will you be doing that for?
Probably not that long because I have work tomorrow. But I was just looking at my Steam just now, and it's currently at 312 hours altogether.
Damn, that's a good count.
Have they done anything for the year anniversary of that?
I haven't finished reading their patch notes on Steam, but they are going to be doing stuff over this month. So yeah, keep an eye out, I
whole
guess.
month. Awesome.
Nice.
I was up all night last night playing Corpse Party, of all things. It's taken me a while to get around to playing it, but for those of you who don't know, it's RPG Maker, Japanese horror game, and it's very good. There's an anime as well, which is also very good, but it's a very engaging game. And I ended up staying up until about 1 a.m. probably later last night playing it. So,
Damn. Is it a party to die for?
I think a lot of people do. Yeah.
I think that's interesting with games sometimes. I mean, like I've actually just booked Friday off for Dying Light. I'm like, you know what, I want to play the game. Obviously, I'll be hanging out with the lovely Jordan on Friday to watch a lovely quote. I mean, fucking terrible film. I've seen it once. I only remember certain parts of it.
We're going back in time to watch Jaws 3D, which is a film from 1983, and it is the third installment of the Jaws series. I discovered yesterday there's actually more films than I thought, and that haunts me. But apparently there's like up to 5 movies, and I'm pretty sure you could put the other ones in the bin.
Isn't Jaws Revenge like Jaws 4? Something like that. I think maybe I don't know.
I mean, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's pretty impressive that they managed to continue the story after the third one.
I mean, you could kind of say like the Meg is like the sort of modern day equivalent of Jaws to a degree.
Yeah, but it's got nothing of the special effects and nuances. Honestly, you're not ready for this fucking movie, man. I watched it at university, and I imagine it will be just as good as I remember it.
I think I watched it when I was probably 6, 7 years old. My grandparents just had it on, and I just remember that one swimming shot, and I'm like, no, just Jesus Christ, why no? I think that's one franchise we'll never get a reboot on. They can never do that. They can never capture the like how Jaws was back in the day. I don't think they ever could.
To be fair, I don't think that would stop them necessarily.
There's a lot of other shark-based films. So we're on to what, Sharknado 8, 9, 10 now?
Oh, come on.
Really?
Come
Is that the
on.
Spiritual
now?
successor to the But you know what I mean, though. Jaws descends into a so bad it's good franchise-based shark films, and then we've had all the short Sharknado series. I think there is quite a lineage of bad shark-based films. I think there was can't remember the name for it. There was an Australian film where the town gets flooded, and the sharks come into towns, and they all get trapped in a shopping centre.
Oh no, it's not that. I was thinking of the crocodile one. There's one in America that came out recently called Crawl. Yeah, it's a 2019 movie. Ironically, stars our lovely lady from Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, Miss Claire Redfield, Kaya Scodelaria. I want to pronounce that correctly. I want to try and attempt it, but yeah, she basically it's set during a hurricane, and her dad's ill or something, and they can't get out, and then these like drugged up alligators or crocodiles come in to like attack the people in the town. It's supposed to be actually really good. It made like $91 million on a $30 million budget, so might be an idea for down the line to watch some weird monster animal movies.
Yeah, they're good. They're enjoyable.
So yeah, gaming wise, just going back to gaming. So like, I take a Friday off to play Dying Light 2. Hopefully that's going to be interesting. But yeah, for me, it's just been completing Horizon. I've completed I've almost completed the DLC. I had a crash just on the final boss. I'm like, okay, I'll go back and play that at some point this week, and then just preparing for my wallet to scream at me for the amount of games I'm going to be buying in the next 3 to 4 weeks, like Dying Light, Sifu, Horizon. It's just going to be madness.
A gaming extravaganza.
And then all the films as well. It's just so much. But yeah, no. So people, we've given the idea of what we're looking forward to in 2021, and we thought, from this week onwards, we're going to start mixing up a bit forward. We're going to mix it up a bit as going forwards. So the main section of the show now will include like a topical discussion, which will sometimes relate to games, movies, or TV shows coming out, or news that have occurred that week. So, just to give you a sneak peek, certain topics we will be diving into are where certain IPs could go and reinvent themselves, which we will be doing today. Is there comic book property burnout coming? Which, with the Batman coming out and, all these Marvel properties coming out this year, is that something that could happen? Do we need to figure out a way to, combat that? We'll see how that goes. And also, for when Elden Ring comes out, because I've heard a few people are looking forward to Elden Ring, it's should games have an option to allow people to play the game in an easier setting? That's going to be an interesting topic to be honest. I think they should. I think there's easy ways to do it. Ironically, easy ways to do it, but a lot of people don't see that, and I think that could happen or should happen. We will get to that. That's going to be happening around the Elden Ring release, so that'll be like 3-4 weeks away from now, I'm guessing. But yes. Before we go into the main topic today, though, we thought we'd add a little bit of flavor of the week stuff in. We'd add a bit of some of that news that we've been getting. Because trust me, people, the entertainment world has been bloody exploding with news recently. It's ridiculous. Like how many news articles have been popping up from the gaming industry alone, and it's been ridiculous. And governments are going now. What do we do? Like the Disney acquiring Fox and Star Wars is nothing compared to how it's been recently. So yeah, we're going to be, getting into a lot of topics. The first one we're going to be getting into is PlayStation has acquired Bungie, which honestly, I did not see that coming.
Neither did I.
No.
It is a strange one, isn't it? You would expect Xbox to buy Bungie of all companies. Microsoft.
Well, Xbox currently own Crash Bandicoot, so I think it's only fair that PlayStation takes something off of them.
They've traded.
I believe Xbox also owns Spyro as well, so it's a kind of a funny turn into the tables there, in a way.
It's not uncommon.
I mean, I was thinking that actually, like, because they own or are going to own Spyro, they could have Rare make a Spyro game, because they have the license. They can have a completely different studio make a Spyro game. Like,
But why?
I don't know. I don't know. Like, well, maybe the studio does want to do it, and they could, give it to another. And Rare is quite good for that sort of stuff. So, they have been making some good content.
I guess I'm just cold-hearted, but my personal take on everything is that consoles are not for children. So we should just like defund the children's games and up the really cool games. Okay.
What the fuck? What?
Think about what the controller looks like for like Xbox and PlayStation.
Right.
They're like massive. They're not made for children's hands.
Can I just point out, do you remember the fucking controller for the Nintendo 64? What we had to deal with back in the day? Like, I think it's a lot easier for kids to play with those controllers now than what we had to. Consoles are not for kids. What the fuck, man? I never saw that one coming.
I'm just saying that, they shouldn't get so many games. We should be getting more adult games.
How do you get kids into games? Like, if you cut off the kids from the games, you're going to get like 20 years down the line, and then no one's going to be interested in games.
It'll be FOMO. Kids will be like, I want to know what mummy and daddy are playing on the TV all the time, and they can just spectate the games and then be like, I want to learn how to do that one day, and then you can show them over time. But I just don't think we need so many kids games, because kids games are usually shit.
Oh, okay. So do you actually mean like we don't need we don't need kids. Kids shouldn't be playing console games. It's kids shouldn't have. There's too many kids games.
Yeah, we keep making too many kids games.
I kind of disagree with that, to be honest.
Like there's a few good exceptions, okay, but like most of them is trash.
Like
and
what though?
Like all those games that are like catered for like, you know, the random toys that come with it. You know, it's just like a marketing ploy to just get loads of shit that people don't need, like the amiibos and shit like that.
To be fair, I feel like those are kind of on the way out a little bit. We're not really seeing many of those coming anymore.
I don't know. That's still a really popular franchise. Like I still hear about adults buying fucking amiibos. You know, they're very popular.
I mean, that's been a thing since Transformers, though, the cartoons. If you got rid of it in games, you would just still have it in TV shows and stuff. Like they are making TV shows to promote games and vice versa, like especially mobile games. Yeah.
When it comes to like that though, I think outside of that, I don't think we have like many franchise kids games outside of the old style. Like, I mean, we have like Fortnite and those sorts of games, which are which can be more mobile centric and console, but it's its own thing now. And outside of that, I don't think we have like stuff like Spyro and Crash Bandicoot. I mean, Ratchet and Clank, has come back as a reinvent. It's like a continuing on the PlayStation 5. But I'm just thinking of games on consoles that kids can play. But from what it sounded like, Jordan, you said like kids shouldn't have consoles at all.
I think certain kids shouldn't have consoles, and I say that there's like an age demographic that's like too low. Like kids under like the age of like 7 or 8, they don't need consoles.
So, it was recently Christmas, and a lot of my friends have kids of the age like 3, 4, 5, 6-ish. They all got Switches, and they all got the latest Mario Party game. They don't know each other, and that's what happened this Christmas. And now they can play with each other, their parents' party games. It's it's good.
Okay, right. I gotta rescind my previous comment there because Nintendo is pretty much like the centric point for that. I guess. Yeah, I really should have maybe thought about that. And Pokemon Legends Arceus has just come out. It is Arceus, by the way. I have heard from people that's how it is supposed to be pronounced, and I'm gonna give it a go eventually. But I've had a Switch for like 5 years now, and outside of Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey, I'm trying to find those games to really go back to it. And I bought Skyward Sword. I think it was Skyward Sword, the recent like HD remaster of Zelda. I'm just looking forward to going back to that eventually.
I mean, just to put it out there, like I'm extremely controversial when it comes to Nintendo as well. Like I almost don't consider Nintendo to be like putting out consoles. They're putting out like I guess board game like boards. That seems to be a lot of what their thing is that I only see people, at least with people with kids, when they come into playing things on like the Switch, it's like let's play Mario Party, and it's essentially Monopoly on the screen. Or there are obviously some games for the Switch that are obviously amazing, like Breath of the Wild. I understand it's an unquestionably a good game, but I just feel like they don't really put out stuff that's for adults really anyway, compared to like big console games. But I feel like I'm derailing a little bit here.
Yeah, a little bit to be fair, but I would say that I'm not exactly like into Nintendo games that much myself, but almost everybody who I know who plays Nintendo games are adults. So I'd say that Nintendo have got a pretty big market for both games that are suitable for both children and adults there.
I think it's a case of like Nintendo have a lot of established franchises that we grew up with. So when those new games come out, like I haven't played a Pokemon game in years. I bought Pikachu. Let's Go Pikachu. And I played it for a while. I actually quite enjoyed it, but I didn't buy Sword and Shield because I like my 151. I like my old Sky. I can handle the extra 100, Pichu and everything. But I'm probably gonna give Arceus a go because I like the idea of it.
Yeah,
I just think it's like the franchises. I think it is like these men trying. It would be interesting to see where they're going because like they just had Metroid Dread come out recently, which I actually still need to play. Like I never played a Metroid game before, and it has like that I think it's like a Metrovania style game. Well, yeah, Metrovania style game to it, where you go through and everything.
I mean, I just want to put this out there. Can you think of a single Switch game or like a Nintendo game that's come out in recent years that was an exclusive that was targeted specifically only to adults and it only came out on that console? Because I don't think there is. I think what they have is a lot of children's games that we grew up on, like you say, and they've continued those franchises and everyone can play those. And then everything else that's kind of like an adult game that I can think of is something that's already existing on another console.
There is a lot of that going on.
How about Super Smash Bros?
I don't think that counts. I mean, it is a competitive game, and like it is more popular with adults than it is with kids, but that's still part of their like existing older games.
Monster Hunter Rise. I mean, like it's an action Capcom game. Kind of see that be more like it seems a very like heavy game to play as well sometimes. I'm guessing, so I haven't seen too much on it, but yeah.
I feel like that's very reaching.
It's that you
Only
asked
because
for
they
one, though.
put Monster Hunter on every other console as well. It's like fucking Skyrim.
Yeah, man. I get where you're coming from, and I think that's definitely going to come into what we're going to talk about today, like the whole could certain IPs reinvent themselves on certain platforms. I think Nintendo's always going to be fine. They are always going to be fine, and that I love them for that. It's just like Sony and Microsoft could be over here slapping each other. Well, they say slapping each other, but they have an amicable relationship. It's nice. It's the players a lot of the time, some of the players anyway. But Nintendo's just like, yeah, we're just going to sit on a corner and make loads of games that people still play and whatnot, which is awesome. I'm definitely looking forward to Breath of the Wild 2, though. I swear to God, I think we're going to get the Switch Pro this year, or the Switch 2. Because you got to remember, the Switch came out in like 2017 now, 2016, 2017. So I think we're due for the next level. And I think that might, I don't know any, it'd be nice to happen. Yeah, cool. But yeah, people, that was the, so obviously, PlayStation acquiring Bungie. The thing is, though, on that topic, they have stated that it's a case of, it might not just be like they're acquiring the studio, they might use the IP to possibly put the game title into movies, because obviously PlayStation are creating movies based on their franchises now. So we've got obviously Uncharted, the first one coming out. We've got Ghost of Tsushima happening, which by the guy who directed John Wick. So that's going to be pretty interesting. I think they should just get the actor who played Jin Sakai from that game. Like, I could just get him. Just do it. Like, he might as well.
Why not?
Yeah, exactly. And I think Destiny, like, I love the fact that Halo, the TV show, is coming out. And, like, that'll be another topic we'll get into. But we could get a Destiny film. And I think, I played Destiny when it first came out. I thought it was pretty cool. I did drop off because I'm not hugely into those styles of games. But if they could, like, cater and drive into more of a narrative, like, more heavy narrative driven, maybe add single player style, I quite enjoy that. And maybe movie properties might be cool, or TV shows even. So it'd be pretty interesting.
3 billion is quite a lot to put behind a Destiny the movie franchise, really, isn't it? And that's before you've actually made the sci-fi epic movie itself.
It could just be, the ground for stuff like that, though, like animated shorts or, short animated films, that sort of thing, like they did with Altered Carbon, wasn't it? They made that sort of stuff on Netflix.
Yeah. I think it's from reading here. It's Sony CFO Hiroki Totoki. I suppose I pronounced his name correctly. Was asked what benefits Bungie itself saw in being acquired by Sony, and his answer covered things about hiring and employment retention, but also I'm going from IGN here. It's not just for the gaming area, but the multi-using of IP and merchandising of IP, like a game title maybe be put into movies. So I think it's like, I'd love to see where they go, is because they could like expand Destiny to this huge cinematic thing, multiplayer, single player, maybe just expand it. And I could see that happening because there is a rich franchise there. I feel like that's definitely possible. So yeah, and they've got some established talent there also.
I heard someone else pointed out as well that with obviously the recent acquisition of Blizzard Activision, Sony were kind of running out of major shooter franchises to have in their corner as well. So that's also another potential reason and thought behind it.
I think it's also like a case of, I think we're going to see Sony, like Jeff Keighley put a tweet out recently about like he's heard from sources that there are going to be big games company. I think this is the year of the game company purchases, like, you know, people establishing themselves, and I think Konami might be next. Like I think they're the one to go next. I think Capcom would probably go to Sony, to be fair, but I think Konami's next, and it'd be hilarious because if Konami go to them, that means good old Hideo Kojima could go back to Konami.
I mean, I fucking hope so, because Konami are kind of like holding on to a few franchises, like Metal Gear. So I'm just like, I really want another fucking Metal Gear to come out, and
Silent Hill.
and Silent Hill, obviously. So yeah, they need to make that happen, and only Hideo Kojima can do it.
So actually going on the Microsoft deal also this week, just got announced today, is the FTC, the US Federal Trade Commission, is going to take the reign. Is going to, you know, take, as I said, going off of IGN again, they're going to take the reins on reviewing the Microsoft intended acquisition of Activision Blizzard. So I guess obviously, you know, it's the government starting to see all these big companies doing these huge purchases now, because I'm just thinking about this. Google could come out of nowhere. I mean, to be fair, they, you know, maybe need to review that more. But, you know, Google could come out of nowhere and buy someone because they have that much money. Because Sony don't have as much money as Microsoft. Like, Microsoft is like $1.5 trillion. You know, it's a lot of money. I'm hoping this Activision thing goes through. It'd be really awesome to see some of these titles come over and like maybe reinvented, or, you know, IPs coming back in and everything.
I was just going to say, I don't think they've ever successfully vetoed an acquisition like this, not to my memory. I mean, they've not managed with some of the Google acquisitions or Facebook acquisitions. They're not going to. It'll definitely go through.
Can you imagine if Microsoft bought Google? That would be dark. It's like handing over our lives to an even bigger corporation.
Oh, it's Apple as well.
It's going to be pretty interesting just to see what else comes out of the woodwork in the next few weeks and months, isn't it?
I mean, you never know. Nintendo could actually like be like, "Oh, hello there. We're gonna, you know, buy some franchises off you." You know that could happen.
You guys played Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah.
As you know, Jordan, I've got to 3 missions before the end, which still frustrates you. But actually, have you heard about the whole news thing on that recently about the?
I've kind of avoided anything around it because I didn't want any potential spoilers to what the content is going to be. Or I saw the news about the artwork, but the point I was going to make is that we're kind of, if it kind of continues that trend where companies are buying companies over and over and over to the point where there's only going to be like a few companies left on Earth that are like the biggest companies, it's going to reach a point where, you know, we're in this kind of crazy dystopia where it's either going to be like Google or Sony or Microsoft that owns the world, and then like they'll have gang fights in the streets of like who has the turf of each area, kind of like in Cyberpunk with Militech and Arasaka Corporation.
Console wars will take to the streets.
Wow,
Quite
that
literally.
literal console war. And as I said, Nintendo would just be in its high tower, just watching the world burn below. But yeah, no, I think that's definitely going to happen. Like, as you've said, Fergus, like that's not happened before. And if like Disney could buy Fox for that amount, you know, and you know, I can't see why, you know, Microsoft and Activision can't do it. But who knows? You know, we'll see, guys. It'll be a nice thing. Be interested to see. So yeah. Going on to going into another topic, like very brief topic. So this is going to be an interesting one because obviously Jordan has his hot takes on the Netflix's Cowboy Bebop TV show, which where I think we're opposite ends, some of the opposite ends on some of those topics. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. Bit sad I'm not going to get a second season, but Netflix's live action One Piece goes into production now. It's like I don't know. Like,
it makes me want to die.
I think it's going to suffer the same fate as Cowboy Bebop, probably for the same reasons. I mean, we've just hit chapter 1,000 of One Piece, and people have grown up with it, and then have started to introduce their kids to it. So it's like the anime is really embedded in like people's childhoods and lives, and then turning up with even if it's high budget, which I guess it would have to be because Luffy's made of rubber, like how much animation that would take.
I think it'll be interesting because obviously Marvel is doing the Fantastic Four, so we're going to see Mr. Fantastic. So it's pretty much similar powers to a degree, like the elasticity sort of thing. So it'll be interesting to see how they compare, and I'm hoping that I'm kind of because also Netflix are doing Avatar, like they're doing Avatar: The Last Airbender. And the cast for that I think, looks great, but my concern is like the original showrunners left. Maybe they revised the story a bit more, but I'm hoping it's a case of Netflix is thinking that they're taking these shows and they're learning each time. They're trying to figure out to perfect the formula because sometimes you gotta crack a few eggs to make an omelet. You granted it was really sad that it was those animes that got cracked into the cracked eggs, but. Yeah, I'm hoping. Like, obviously, we got a few friends who are really into One Piece, so I've seen their initial reactions. But I'm going into it. I've not watched One Piece. My friends keep telling me to keep watching. I'm like, no, I love watching TV shows, but I'm not watching 1,000 fucking episodes of a goddamn anime. No, but yeah.
Yeah, I feel like honestly, the potential for these animes is just it's so much worse than what would happen to the Cowboy Bebop when that got cancelled, because that's only one season, right, in a movie, whereas One Piece is a crazy long anime, and I think Avatar's got at least a few seasons, right? So I feel like they just have so much less chance of successfully getting enough into the show to make the point,
I mean, I think part of the problem right now is that Netflix or just subscription-based places are trying to make shows of animes that are really popular and not necessarily picking the right ones to go from. It's like, yeah, you can pick something like One Piece because it's got content for days, but if you can't get it to last longer than a season, you're just throwing money away. And a lot of these companies have money to throw away, right? But I feel like there are some franchises that are unloved enough that someone who's going to watch it as a live action show could enjoy it and be like, wow, I've never heard of this, and then find out there's an anime, but are big enough and popular enough that they have a good story that would keep people coming back, and it's just finding the right one.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree, and on your point though about the whole Avatar and One Piece are so long. It kind of made me sad because they could have just done one more season of Cowboy Bebop. They could have just done it, and so many other shows have got renewed. Like, just do one more season, and then you're done. You could literally finish it in one more season. Unlike other shows, as you've said, Chaz, that are going to take much longer to complete. Like Avatar: The Last Airbender is 3 seasons.
Like, I don't even want to bother watching these shows that I know are never going to have an end. Like, what's the point? It just kind of leaves a sour taste in your mouth. So I feel like there's only a certain amount of times they can kind of get away with pulling something like that.
Yeah, I think that's the point. I think that's what my concern is. Like, so One Piece is going into production now. The Last Episode, I believe, has been in production for a little while already. And aren't they continuing to do Death Note? Like, they actually said they're continuing to do Death Note.
I fucking hope not.
I mean, like, that's what concerns us. Like, Death Note had critical, issues that was reviewed on it. Cowboy Bebop had the same issue. I'm thinking, it was weird because like they were still promoting that show online until they cancelled it on the day. It's like if you're gonna cancel it, just let John Cho cut his hair.
I think Death Note is generally regarded as a franchise as completely unkillable. So they can just keep at it. Like, there have been so many really bad live action films of it, and it's still going.
I mean, I slightly disagree on the bad live action movies. They're not good, but they're definitely entertaining. Especially at the end of the first one, where they just fucking wheel out Red Hot Chili Peppers to start playing it over the credits.
What was that one again?
Death Note.
Oh, okay, I haven't watched it because it just didn't interest me. I mean, live action.
This is the Japanese one specifically.
So live action adaptations, I think, can work because we've had, Sonic, Detective Pikachu. I love Detective Pikachu quite a bit. The fact that you had, I presume spoilers are fine now because people don't really care here about that.
I've not
So
actually seen Detective Pikachu. I've
maybe I might hold
Neither
off
have I.
then. It's actually, I'll be honest with you, it's actually quite good.
It's
Like
not
how they did
bad.
it.
It's not bad. I think it was slightly lower than what I expected from it, but yeah, not bad.
And obviously we're getting Uncharted, and as you said, people, we're gonna be having a topic later on down the line of dream adaptations from games. So if we're gonna take games, do you want to make it into a film or a TV show? So that's another topic coming up later down the line. So it'd be pretty awesome. Our final news piece is definitely causing a stir on the internet at the moment. It's Halo. It's Halo, people. I'm actually on the positive side of this, to be honest, because I think they got the fire extinguishers ready, because they said this isn't the golden timeline. This is its own thing. We're adapting. It's an adaptation. We're taking it. We're creating our own thing. We're still we're keeping parts of the lore. We're just adapting it. But yeah, what do you guys think?
I've seen the trailer. As I said before, I'm a big Halo fanboy. I quite like the idea of going back to some of the roots of the series, looking at the early Covenant war, the early discovery of the Halo rings. We haven't really explored that in a while from the games, so that's interesting to me. Aesthetically as well, I think for the most part it looks pretty good. The armor for the Spartans, the Marines, and the Covenants, and all their vehicles looks pretty spot on. So I'm pretty excited. I'm cautiously excited, I suppose. The only thing I suppose that looks a bit weird is I'm not sure if she's a villain, the human that seems to be working with the Covenant. I'm not sure what she is. That's a bit weird, but yeah, okay. I'm cautiously optimistic so far.
Are they gonna bring Breaking Benjamin to do all the music?
I mean,
I hope so.
my hope is because I loved the Finish the Fight live action short that came out around Halo 3. I thought that was brilliant back in the day, and I think I definitely agree with you, Chaz, in the sense of the human Covenant. That's going to be interesting, because you could definitely see where they've changed the narrative. From the series, Master Chief is being controlled remotely at the beginning.
Is that actually confirmed?
So, well, in the trailer it states, activate. They turn him around, and you see, in the camera, his head comes up, and I believe they say something like the line, "Oh yeah, they're controlled." I believe they say they're controlled or manipulated, and it feels like, and also Master Chief touches a Forerunner artifact, and he's finding out about the Halo, and also they have a heroes line in there: find the Halo, find the Halo, save the world, or something.
With the control thing, I'm not sure if this is the right interpretation, but I think it's more about the training and the kind of conditioning that the Spartans grew up with. I think that's what that line was, but maybe I'm completely wrong.
No, that could exactly be it. I think it was just for the trailer. I know another critique actually you were talking about is the human Covenant hybrid is Cortana.
I don't mind Cortana. I mean, we've seen 2 seconds of her, but again, like you said, it's a different timeline. They're doing things differently. I don't mind the look. It looks fine.
It does, right. So we do have to talk voice actors here, especially when it comes to Cortana. Cortana is Jen Taylor in the game and the TV show. But as far as I'm aware, none of the other game voice actors are in the TV show. Especially Steve Downes, the voice actor of Master Chief himself. And since we never actually see the face of Master Chief, I do find it a bit strange they wouldn't use the already contracted and voice actor. It's a bit strange, especially if things have kept consistency with Cortana. I think that was my only gripe with it.
I think it's because we are going to see Master Chief's face. I think it is going to happen. I think
that was such a huge thing in the games, though, just never seeing his face.
No, well, yes and no, because you do see part of his face in, some of the legendary editions. You do see his eyes and everything. You do see, at the end of Halo 1, if you mod it, you could see him take a helmet off, and there's another helmet underneath. So you do kind of see what's underneath the helmet to a degree. But I think it's interesting. It's just when it comes to, I'm fine with it. I actually like the actor who's playing him, Pablo Schreiber. So obviously, porn stash Chaz. From Chaz just
that, God's sake.
To be fair though, Steve Downes, I was just listening to an interview today. He said Steve Downes is older now, and Master Chief is supposed to be really tall, zero body fat, and we see him, without his armor on. And now they could dub him over, but yeah.
I was going to say that they could do the same sort of situation of how they made Darth Vader. The voice was not the same as the body.
I mean, with The Mandalorian, there's 3 actors. Well, there's 1 actor and 2 stunt doubles who play him. And there's times when Pedro Pascal isn't even there and he's just doing the voiceover later, which is understandable. But I think like you see in the trailer him out of his armor and you see the back of his head and everything, and you see that. And I think we are going to see that, so it'd be very interesting. How do we feel about like he seems he's going to have this relationship with this human like colonist character, who I believe her name is Quana, I believe her name is, and they're going to have this like relationship going through it. So like maybe she's like the human element to bringing him back.
It's an interesting take. Of the games I've played for Halo, I don't remember seeing any kind of relationship with that. Master Chief doesn't really interact with colonists or civilians at all, really. So, be good a different angle to explore that character with.
I think definitely play Halo Infinite more. That's all I'll say. They do start to try to do that, and it'll be interesting. But I mean, we have seen live action Master Chief before, like in the Forward Unto Dawn, I believe it was. It was a Forward Unto Dawn. It was another live action one they did where it was at the Academy and the Covenant attack. So yeah, we had that. But yeah, no, it comes out really soon, March 24th, so it's not long. I don't know how we're going to watch it in the UK because it's on Paramount Plus. So, I'm hoping with Halo coming out, they're going, how Disney Plus had the Mandalorian as one of their big initial shows sort of thing. I'm hoping this is for Paramount Plus internationally, so hopefully we'll see that. But yeah, that's the end of the news segment, people. Right. We are going to be getting into the main topic now, which is, of course, where could certain game IPs go to reinvent themselves? The idea here, people, is, stuff like Resident Evil, where it was originally a tank movement game that turned into Resident Evil 4, over-the-shoulder combat, or Fallout started off as this, old-school strategy game that turned into, like, obviously the first-person shooter that it came to be. With all these acquisitions going on, how could certain industry, acquisitions and these companies take IPs and do their own take on them? Or is there an IP that hasn't been out for so many years now, or you feel it could come back, that you just feel just needs a refresh, or something you'd love to see? So yeah, I think we're going to start with Chaz today. Do you want to start us off, dude?
Sure thing, man. So I thought about this, and there's a few franchises that fit the category, I think, but the thing I decided to go for in the end was the Fable franchise, actually. It's quite close to my heart, but recently, as you said, it's not really been particularly active, and the last few releases in the franchise kind of lost their way. Obviously, you had Fable Heroes, Fable The Lost Journey, and Fable Legends, the last of which was cancelled before it even came out. But all of those titles, they veered massively away from the core of the gameplay. And obviously, as well, we have Playground Games making a new one, but we don't really know a lot about what they're doing with that. So I had to think about, what I would like to see from that release, I suppose, and from the franchise in general. So I think the biggest thing for that is to slightly kind of backpedal and go back towards the roots of what made it good in the first place, but kind of expand it, bring it up to current gen, capabilities and expectations. Obviously everyone knows Fable for the storytelling, the humor, the atmosphere, the level of customization you can get. I think particularly you can expand on that massively. I also thought in terms of actually changing up how you do things. You had the alignment system in Fable quite famously, but it was very black and white. I thought, nowadays alignment systems tend to be a little more complex and a little bit more ambiguous. I thought that could be quite cool to see in Fable, as well as expanding the playable area in the game. I had heard some people talk about making it open world, but I'm not necessarily sure that's a good choice for Fable. I would like to see a bigger world, with what we can do with current gen, but not necessarily open world and paint the map type things. And also the magic system as well. It was very complex, or relatively complex for Fable in the first game, and then they kind of toned it down a lot more. Just each new game they toned it down, and I always was annoyed by that. So they should bring it back and expand it a bit more. So yeah, I could talk a lot about Fable, but I don't want to completely dominate the conversation.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. From could you say like, you're saying like, you don't want open world, but it's okay to have an expanded area. Could the recent Final Fantasy VII remake be a good way to approach, like, it's not open world, but it has areas to itself, like, in, you can explore these areas, and then I think that might be a way to go about it.
I guess like what I would like to see is the original Fable, the original games. They're relatively small, but I think with current standards and budgets and stuff, you could expand those areas, but still make it a linear kind of path that you progress down, and then put quests in where you can go back and explore those areas again, find new bits of story, and just basically improve on what they already did with the previous generations of hardware.
No, that's awesome. I mean, like, obviously with Fable coming on Playground Games and how Forza has looked amazing, I think no doubt we're going to get a gorgeous looking game, and I think, like, upgrading to current standards is going to be interesting. But I am definitely, because I remember playing I think it was Fable 1 and 2 I played back in the day. I don't think I played any of the other Fable games after that.
That's fine. You missed the bad ones.
But yeah, no, I'm just thinking like how you described it, and honestly, like games like Last of Us, Uncharted, Final Fantasy come to mind, because they have like these areas you can explore, but they're not open world. Like they are contained. I think even God of War to some extent, like you can go to different areas in that. Obviously, there's like a small transition animation between those areas. Like you have a hub, the central hub, and then you go off to these areas, and I think that'd be interesting. But yeah, no, that seems pretty cool.
So one thing you just reminded me, Forza, correct me if I'm wrong, that was set in basically the English countryside, right?
Forza 4, yeah.
Yeah, I thought, yeah, that looked really good, that gameplay, and how awesome would that be if they, obviously in the Fable style could do. Obviously, Fable's kind of based loosely inspired by English countryside anyway. How amazing would that look with modern gen graphics? You got me excited for that idea.
I mean, like outside of Forza 4, Horizon 4, and Watch Dogs Legion, which has its alternate future of London, we haven't really. I can't think of that many games in the last 10, 20 years where it's been set in England or the UK. It's not really been like. That's what I'm saying. You can't really like. The only other game I can think of back in the day is The Getaway or GTA London.
I was going to say GTA. Yeah, you're right. I can't think of that many games set in the UK. I'd like to see more though.
I mean, yeah, you think about like we have such a rich aesthetic history and everything. If it involves British things, it's usually moved to other countries or something. But I mean, we've had James Bond games that are just set in other countries, but we never really had them any set in the UK. And yeah, I definitely think like games have taken inspiration from our structures here and everything, our style. But yeah, it would be really nice to see Fable on. Obviously, the comedic aspect would be pretty interesting. Because wasn't Stephen Fry involved in the Fable games at one point?
Yeah, he was in. I believe it was Fable 3. I think they got a few other actors as well, English actors in. I can't remember, but definitely Stephen Fry was.
Yeah, so no doubt we'll definitely have that. Like going into that, I think like Simon Pegg would be a pretty fun one to add in there.
That would be cool. The only thing is though, is if they could capture that original humor, because I think a lot of that humor came from just the Lionhead devs, of course, and they're all kind of scattered about the industry now. So it'd be interesting to see if Playground Games can replicate that humor and that tone, really.
I think going into like to go from like their only games have been from looking here is driving games, to go to Fable. I feel they gotta have some like.
It's
some
a
hope.
big leap. It's a big leap. I'm hoping it's. I'm trying to be hopeful because I love Fable, but we'll see. Yeah.
I mean, it kind of reminds me of like a game I love to keep mentioning is Gorilla going from Killzone to Horizon. Like Killzone was very shooter heavy, and then it was very like brown and muddy and everything, and then they go to Horizon, which is like the complete opposite, and a huge open world narrative, maybe something like that. And I think maybe they have tried to like pursue ex Lionhead devs, to try and bring that in and everything, which would be pretty interesting.
It would be interesting. I kind of hope they've done that. I haven't heard anything, but then I haven't heard almost anything about Playground's Fable at all. So it's all very much up in the air at the moment.
I think we'll definitely get something at E3 or whatever E3 might be this year, or like Gamescom or something. I think hopefully we might get something which would be pretty interesting to see. It'd be really nice to see, to be honest. And I think it will shock people, to be honest.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've had any kind of update, so anything new would be great.
It has been quite a while since I've played a Fable game, to be honest. Probably talking end of the era of the original Xbox. They were very good. Instead, the alignment system, it's evolved into other games quite a lot since, though. Like Red Dead 2's got quite a advanced alignment system, for example. Yeah, I think you could do a lot with the Fable franchise, for sure.
I'm just looking at the timeline, and I didn't realize Fable was 2004.
Original Xbox.
Jesus Christ! Like,
Yeah.
just makes you think, like, Jesus, almost 20 years ago. Wow. But yeah, awesome, Chaz. Do you have anything further you want to say on that at all? Or?
Just that, yeah, like Fergus says, alignment systems have kind of come a long way since Fable was doing them. So that was the biggest thing that stood out to me, is somewhere you could do some interesting things with, and expand on the original building blocks that Fable did. Back in, what do you say, 2004? So yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, it was like Fable 2004, Fable 2 2008, 3 was 10, Fable The Journey was 2012, Anniversary was 14, Fortune was 17, and then yeah, so it's going to be a good few years between even the last game and this one, so it's going to be interesting. So yeah, and supposedly the new game will run on the in-house engine Forza Tech.
Oh, so that could be very pretty then.
Yeah, exactly, and it'll be interesting to adapt that engine to a open world. Maybe we'll get like a Forza game with like driving elements.
I was going to say, will the next Fable game have lots of kart racing mini games?
I hope not. We'll see.
Oh, but we will see how it goes. But no, thanks, Chaz. That was actually a pretty good one. Fable is definitely an interesting game, and I'm hoping it does keep the comedic aspect of the charm back in the day.
It has to, otherwise it's not Fable.
I mean, that trailer they did show, that teaser trailer did have like kind of fucked up comedic elements to it. But
It was definitely a Fable trailer, so we've got that at least.
yeah, exactly. How about yourself, Fergus?
Franchise, I think I've gone in a very different direction with this, to be honest. So, Elder Scrolls City Builder game is very different to anything they're doing currently, as far as I'm aware. But I've been trying to find like a good historical fantasy city building game. I honestly can't find one. Or at least I might be bad at searching, but I think it would be quite good. Like if you could, say, invite various guilds to your city, and then get the like magic college, and then get the villagers involved in learning magic, sending out heroes to do quests and defend you from dragons or oblivion occultists or what have you. I think a lot could be done with that, and it's not been looked at all, as far as I'm aware.
I mean, yeah, I'm thinking about it. Like, would it be a case of like you choose a specific faction to go with, or would you create your own faction and then take inspiration from maybe like other like kingdoms within the Elder Scrolls like lore?
That's a good point, I suppose. I guess it would just depend on where. I suppose you'd have like a missions system where you would like, build a city in a specific area, and that would be that faction's area. Because this is the Elder Scrolls worlds, the factions are quite location specific. I mean, people travel, of course, but you don't get a Khajiit city in Skyrim, for example.
I quite like the idea of being able to choose where you want to build your city, and depending on what region you're in, so Skyrim or Tamriel or Morrowind, that dictates the type of citizens you have, the type of buildings you have available, the type of guilds, all of that stuff. I actually really like that idea. It's definitely got some potential. It's cool.
Yeah, no, awesome. I mean, like when it comes to that, like actually going off of that, Chaz, you could have each expansion could be a different area of that and everything, or the previous Elder Scrolls games, and adapting it.
Well, they have been doing that with the Elder Scrolls Online. They seem to be producing them at quite a rate at the moment, to small faction-specific-ish locations. So they are already working on what could be at least the groundwork for that, maybe, if they listen to this podcast, they might do it.
Well, come and listen to us. Come and listen to us, Bethesda. We'll help you out. We'll help you out. No, I think it's interesting to be honest. Like, I never. You have complete yeah, definitely. I did not expect an Elder Scrolls City Builder type game. Like, are you thinking like Sim City style or like Civilization or?
I guess I was thinking more Sim City, but a bit more in depth, I guess. So I'm playing a game at the moment where you manage a tavern in a sort of like a medieval village. It's pretty good. It doesn't have enough depth to it, to be honest. But it's that kind of vibe. Like if you did that with an entire city, you would have more than enough depth to make that a very playable game. So you could do trade relations with other factions and sort of. So I guess you'd basically role play as the Jarl, I guess, wouldn't you?
Jarl Fergus.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, Jarl Ballin.
I just realised as well, because SimCity had disasters, right? In this, game, let's say you're playing in Skyrim, you could have dragon attacks as disasters, or like giants coming and bashing down your city gates. It's actually, got a lot of potential, I think.
Yeah, Mammoth Attack, Oblivion Gates.
Oblivion Gates, of
yeah,
course.
If you have a tiny little man shouting Fusuda as he just goes through the game and everything, would be absolutely hilarious. Yeah, that is pretty awesome to be honest, man. Like, I'm just thinking about it more like how could it be a case of like with the cities themselves, you could go in like it's more because I know with SimCity you sort of build it at a grand area. Like, could you go into it more and like look at the mechanics of how each building works and like try to build out from there? Because I know certain settlements have like certain things like I don't know.
Potentially. Like you mean like actually get to manage the village tavern sort of thing. It depends on the size of your settlement, but potentially. You don't want to get too absorbed in a small part of it and then inadvertently ignore, the blades who are being attacked by a dragon because you're pulling pints. So you'd have to balance that, I think.
Could it be a case of like you have the established cities in the Elder Scrolls world, and you are like a Jarl who's been sent off to create his own? So like you don't have to follow like the structure of. So you join a faction, you join as like I don't know the Jarl Junior or like the Jarl's assistant or whatever, and you're expanding, but you want to create a new like settlement or something. You build up from there.
Potentially. Yeah, build around like mines or fishing ports or what have you. Yeah, you'd want to start it from the ground up, really, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you could have training cities, which are smallish villages that you turn into cities or what have you.
Yeah, no, honestly, man, like it's really nice to see like Chaz has gone like Fable and you've just gone like completely the different direction. Like it's interesting when this stuff happens. To be honest, you don't expect these sorts of things.
I just want to say, Fergus, earlier you mentioned about there not being that many historical city builders out there at the moment, and I have to agree with you. The closest thing I could think of is something called Nebuchadnezzar, which is kind of a spiritual sequel to the Pharaoh games. That's got some mixed reviews. Yeah, that's had some mixed reviews. I've been keeping an eye on it, but I'm ignoring it at the moment. Apart from that, the closest thing I can think of is maybe the Anno franchise, but that's been a couple of years since that's had an entry. So I definitely think there's a bit of a hole in the market there for something like a new take on the genre, basically.
Yeah, definitely. I totally missed Anno, actually. I haven't played it at all.
Awesome. Do you have any further points, Fergus?
I don't think so. So I came up with this off the top of my head because mainly it's something I've been looking to play myself.
Yeah.
These things, yeah, if you start making these things, they, evolve naturally. So
It's definitely something I want to see. I'm quite a fan of simulation games, so if you guys hear about one of those, some kind of historical city builder coming out, do let me know.
Nice. Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Fergus. Obviously, we're about to go into Mind People, but just a quick input. If anyone else has any games they'd like to possibly reinvent themselves with certain IPs, just email in at nmipodcast@outlook.com. We'd definitely like to see what you people think, and we might read them out next week or the following weeks to see what you think. But yeah, so mine is like going completely different. Obviously, so okay, take a guess. What have I? What could I have done? Let's have a guess.
Probably something Mass Effect related.
No.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I'm not done that.
So I thought of as one of the things I would talk about. I don't know enough about the franchise. Creed, maybe, because that's been very samey for a while, as far as I'm aware of.
right. Okay, so you actually get quite warmer there, Chaz. So the Assassin's Creed idea is there, but it's not Assassin's Creed. No.
Guardians of the Galaxy franchise.
No, because they actually did quite well with that last game, to be honest. I'd highly recommend. By the way, I really highly recommend playing the last Guardians of the Galaxy game that just came out recently from Eidos Montreal. It is really good, to be honest. And they go quite deep into the Guardians lore without actually having to, it doesn't force it on you. And it's actually a lot deeper than I realized. So, and yeah.
It's not Far Cry, is it?
No, it's not Far Cry, and it's not even inspired on my list.
I was trying to think of a game that had a big map with loads of stuff to tick off, because
So you are
close.
right. You are right. It is a big map, but I did hint earlier that it's basically, we were talking about acquisitions and IPs that could be acquired, and that comes under that. Chaz is just like, oh, okay, you got me going now. Like, what could it be? So I did mention the company that I think would be acquired first, and who was that company?
Konami.
Exactly. And who owns Konami? And and Konami is what's some of the franchises in Konami? I'm going to make sure I'm going to make sure it's Konami now, because I'm going to.
There's lots.
I'm just definitely going to be confirmed this is Konami now. Yeah,
you got Silent Hill. You got fucking Metal Gear, but then you've also got that weird football game that guy tried to send like a death threat to the company for. Like, I remember hearing about that. It's like bizarre news story for games.
I like how Fergus is like trying to Google this now. Like,
hastily googling.
Right. So you said Metal Gear. What was the other one? Silent Hill. But no one's ever said this other franchise, which has actually been really big in the last couple of years in other media. And I've mentioned it multiple times before that you should watch it.
Oh, you're talking about Castlevania.
Yes, I am. I am talking about Castlevania, because that game. That franchise, I watched the TV show. I've played the Lord of Shadows games. Actually, when I back in the day, I really enjoyed them, and I just fell in love with the Netflix show. And I thought they could have capitalized on that. I feel that when that Netflix show came out, they could have like, okay, we're gonna get a good game out. Let's get going on this. But yeah, my game is Castlevania, and it would be an open world game. It would be inspired by a ton of different things. So I've actually done I'm gonna put my tablet up now, people. I've actually done like an entire like idea. I've done like a setting and inspired by certain mechanics you could do in it, and so like the idea would be in the Castlevania franchise, it's about like the Belmonts versus Dracula. That's pretty much the entire premise of these narratives, and the idea would be you play as a Belmont in France in the in 1918, just after World War II or World War One, sorry. And Dracula has been broken out in Transylvania, and he has come to France where the Belmonts are, and he's just wiped out the family. And you get scurried away to London in 1918. And when you're a little baby, you get to decide if you're a male or a female. So I think that'd be pretty interesting to do. Like you actually get to character select at that point. It'd be set like 1936 post-apocalypse alternate London. So like the demonic horde is held off. London has held off the demonic horde for like almost 20 years now, and they've got this uneasy truce with Dracula, like, don't come into Europe, this is mine now. And it's just the Empire isn't good. Like, there are obviously there's like heavy seeded dark roots within London, and this is what I was actually going to earlier about how like you don't have many games set in England. Actually no, I just realized Assassin's Creed Syndicate. It's set in London.
Assassin's Creed.
yeah, exactly. Like I totally forgot about that. But it's just and it would have like a like I was thinking like BioShock, visuals, like how BioShock looked. I thought it'd be like quite good to look like that. But I was inspired by like the Lord of the Rings Shadow Mordor series. How like you could have like the Nemesis system, so you actually go up against like creatures. But they actually, because in the show, creatures can talk at some points, and I feel like you have these enemies you should build up with, and you have like a God of War style mechanic system, multiple weapons, and you have like the whip, which is famous in the games, and a sword and a gun. Like, have you seen the Van Helsing movie? Do you remember?
Which one?
The Hugh Jackman one.
Yes.
Yeah, so that crossbow, I loved that multi-fire crossbow in that movie. I thought it was amazing. So just weapons like that, I thought it would be pretty interesting, to be honest. And it's going off the whole Dying Light 2 thing. Dying Light 2 coming out. I was thinking like the night and day cycle, how like in the day it's more human based and how you're dealing with that issue. But when it's nighttime, the creatures come out, and I think that'd be pretty interesting. Like all that's going on. Basically, I've just taken a whole bunch of different games and thought, well, let's just add the Castlevania IP to it. But it's just as you progress through the game, evil sweeps across London. It's like it's like a struggle of like the last Belmont, as is in like in these narrative franchise, the last Belmont versus the hordes of Dracula, and when you take Dracula down, the hordes, it's sort of like the hive mind sort of thing. We take Dracula down and all the demons disappear, sort of thing. So I thought it'd be pretty interesting, and yeah, that is my IP idea.
Cool. That sounds good. So wait, forgive me. Hack and slash management, shooter.
So yeah, because obviously I think like for close combat you can have like a melee weapon to fight with, and for a long distance you'd have a ranged weapon, and I think it'd be pretty cool to have. And also the whip is sort of like the mid-range weapon, but you can use it for traversal. So like when you're going across rooftops like Indiana Jones style, you like whipping across like scaffolding and going between roofs of London and traversing that way. And I thought it'd be pretty awesome to have like a whip which is iconic to the franchise, but also uses both a weapon and a traversal item. So I thought it'd be pretty interesting, to be honest. I thought how that's approached. And another one is like I love the Days Gone game, which was like had freakers or zombies, as Jordan just calls them, even though I specific in that regard. The horde system in that I thought was brilliant. How like you could face up to like 600 enemies at once, which I thought was daunting. And I was just thinking like, what if you had like as the game progressed further and further and became more corrupt and fucked up, you had like this demons building up and everything, and you had to upgrade your systems and inspire people and like the idea, and then you actually went up against these massive hordes and everything near big segments essentially.
So we're talking the Berserk game, kind of, in terms of the sort of hordes of enemies you would
I've never played that, to be honest.
hack and slash. I've only played it a bit. Berserk and the Band of the Hawk. It's similar mechanically speaking to oh god, what's it? Hack and slash with the Chinese lords.
Oh, Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah, that's the one, the Dynasty Warriors series. But yeah, going through the streets of London with a bit more.
I mean, sort of, to be honest. Like I was thinking more the combat style of like Fallen Order or like Arkham, stuff like that sort of thing. So because Arkham does have like being able to fire long distance to a point, and it does have close quarters. But I definitely could see a mix there. I think like because I think the Castlevania franchise, I think it would be pretty cool to have that. And don't set it in modern day, because I think that would be a bad thing to do, because I think with Dracula, and if you set it in like gothic like London in that time period, I think it'd be pretty interesting, to be honest. And you could even have like an old like an extremely old Jack the Ripper turn up in the game, like like these old British folklore characters like from that time period, which would be pretty awesome to have. But Jack the Ripper turns out to be like now a vampire or something, and adapting this sort of thing.
So we're talking a cross between the first series of JoJo and Devil May Cry, I guess.
I mean, kind of, yeah. Like, and just with a really good narrative. Like, I did enjoy the Lord of the Shadows games, and it did have like a a really big hack and slash element too, which could be sort of like Devil May Cry. But I guess like with all these, as I said, my big passion is single player narrative games, and I'd love a really deep lore version of that. And with my big love of the recent Netflix show, I thought it'd be pretty cool to do, to be honest.
I'd play that, I think. Yeah, for sure.
Konami, contact me. Yeah, but no, that is my game. Hope everyone enjoyed that. As I said, I just put my tablet up to the screen and just like a ton of stuff. Like I even had stuff like different areas of London would have like different creatures, like flying creatures on London's rooftop, aquatic creatures in the Thames, gruff creatures in the East End, and like adapted to those areas, like visually distinctive. But yeah, like, and I thought it was pretty interesting, and with all these acquisitions going to be pretty interesting to do. But yeah,
I'm willing to throw my hat in the ring if you want to hear my game idea. I feel like it's very predictable of me to say this one.
Go ahead.
I would like more Last of Us games, but in a different way. So there's only two, obviously. You have, the RPG games, and then you have factions, which is the essentially just the competitive mode of infighting within the world of Last of Us. And I think there's definitely room where they could expand upon that a bit more, like maybe having a RPG that's set in that in between time between when the story begins and where it resumes with Last of Us 1, where folks are living in this absolutely apocalyptic world of infective things and people like struggling to survive, and you can maybe create your own character to live in that world and not necessarily be like a WoW scenario where it's like it's all open world and everything's crazy, but it's you follow a story, and it doesn't have to be like anything to do with the original characters, but just within that world and just experience that extreme situation to be in.
I get you, and like I know I can't remember the podcast listed, but it's like how you've got these different creatures in this world, and you've only
Mhm.
seen like the American part of it. But what if like in different parts of the world, the mutation, like certain areas of the world, the mutation was different. So like the the infected were like looked completely different, or you had like these different variants and everything. And I definitely want to put more post-apocalyptic games out of America, like because Metro, which I thought was a great game.
One thing that I thought was very odd about Last of Us in the first place was the fact that the whole fungal infection is based off of like a real infection within the animal kingdom with like, I think it was ants or spiders or whatever, would get like latched upon by fungi and get essentially mind controlled into consuming its own kin. And I was shocked that they didn't have any animals where that happened in the game. It only seemed to just travel straight onto humans, and that seems a bit weak. Because if you have so many animals you could be messing with, or monkeys and gorillas, that would be fucking crazy, right?
Zombie games and zombie movies in general need more zombie animals because it's just a cool idea and not many of them explore it. Why not?
I mean, I got to give it to the Resident Evil franchise for that. They do try. I mean, we've had that. I can't think of any zombie gorillas though. I can't think we've ever had that. But
Well,
I
I
know
just
we.
thought of that specifically because it's the closest thing to us, right?
Oh no! But I get that. But like, we've had zombie sharks. We've had like like big spiders.
Zombie fish, zombie dogs.
I just remembered there's a bit in one of the games with we're looking at giraffes, aren't they, that have come into the city, right? Am I
Yeah,
remembering that
yeah.
right? It's zombie giraffes.
That would be pretty ridiculous.
Why not though? I don't know. It seems like maybe it would undermine the tone a little bit, but I think that's quite a
Yeah,
cool idea.
I mean, it is definitely a game that is supposed to be like harrowing and somber because there's, I guess the reason they kept animals out of it was that there could still be some beauty in the world. Like nature won't harm, something so pure, but like humans, they are at their own demise, sort of thing. They brought upon themselves. But you could definitely like expand it in ways that the original, and like you say, Nate, into other territories in the world where situations are different. you know Architecturally places are built differently, and how would that impact, or how does natural disasters impact all of this as well?
There's a book, I think it's called World War Z, and
Hmm.
it kind of does that where it goes to different parts of the world and looks at how they cope with the zombie invasion, which is a really interesting thing about that book. So definitely would like to see that in more franchises.
I mean, it wasn't the greatest film, but I actually did enjoy that film, to be honest, because there was the film version of it with Brad Pitt.
I
But
liked it too.
they did keep a key part of it out, which was the Red Square fight at the end of the book. So basically, at the end of the book, the zombies actually slow down in the cold, so that it allows them to like actually go into like the Red Square in Moscow and like have a fight with them, just kill them all there and everything. And no, yeah, Chaz, you are definitely right there with that. I mean, like just looking at post-apocalyptic franchises, like Terminator as well for that. Yeah, but when it comes to other like post-apocalyptic regions, like you have, because you can have beautiful looking. Well, look, The Last of Us had gorgeous looking, sets and everything. It wasn't all dark and everything. I think with the infected, like the fungi, spores, it was in like quite dense, closed off areas. Like it wasn't in like the open air. So maybe that's how they got that. But like fungi, rats, and stuff like that would have been pretty. I mean, you did have the Rat King, but that was just humans melded together, which was fucked up.
Fungus covered rats is pretty scary. A pretty scary thought.
Yeah.
I guess on that point, it's like rats. I feel like would be harder, only because they would probably get eaten first. But I guess the reason it's kind of the infection spreads to the way it is because it's going to like areas where damp can exist. So obviously, like subways are like plagued with like, pipes bursting and just like waterlogged, and it's never dry. Whereas when you're in the open air, there's obviously like air to kind of breathe through. It's like, imagine if you're in my house where I have problems with mold on the walls. It's like the infection would happen in my room first, and then like if you got to the hallway, you wouldn't have to worry so much, and you could take your mask off.
But that's the thing, like, places like Africa and Australia, how would they deal with it? Because, it's much, well, actually, it's quite, what's the word? It's hot but wet.
Humid.
Yeah, why did I miss the word humid? Yeah, it's quite humid there, so, it's it could be affected there differently. But yeah, wow, I never thought about that. That's pretty awesome, Jordan. Thank you. That's pretty great. Excellent. Right, people. Well, that's our where certain IPs could go, to reinvent themselves, or just refresh them a little bit, or what we'd like to see. And I like to thank you fellas for dropping us those ideas. I hope everyone liked it out there. Right, people, that is the end of the show. Next week we are going to be delving into time loop narratives, because we seem to have got so many games with time loops in them recently. You've got Deathloop, Hades, you've got the Forgotten City. You've got tons of these games that are coming out, and I'm presuming so more as well. And I'm just wondering where we're going to go from here, and what could be next after that with time loop narratives. What could be the next big thing that the games industry latches onto? We somehow sporadically get tons of different genres of. But yes, thank you for joining us today, people. If you'd like to get in contact with us with any questions, queries, feel free to email us at nmipodcast@outlook.com with any of your certain game RPGs you possibly like to reinvent yourselves, and we might get into a nice little discussion on those as well. And or follow us on Twitter and Instagram at NMIcast. As I said, please join us next week for Time Loop Narratives. But we will also be doing a brief talk on the new release, Dying Light 2 Stay Human. I will be doing a little game review, in-depth talk about that to see how that game is done, because it's going to be quite interesting. But until then, people, I'd like to thank my guest host today. Thank you for joining me so much today, fellas.
No worries, man.
Yeah, good to be here. Thank you.
No problem. It's been fun.
Excellent. Well, I've been your host, Nate, and I hope you stay safe, everyone, and I will see you next week.